Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Derek Mansfield. Wait for the tech.
1, 2. Right. Catch my breath. I meant to go for a leak actually, so this might be faster than I originally thought. A couple of years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, I was in Kiev, in Ukraine, at a museum, and they had a kind of jewellery hanging around. And I thought, oh, that looks interesting, and I read a bit about it. And it said this was from the Scythian Empire. And I thought, okay, and I thought Scythians, Assyrians, stuff like that, Bible, you know, da-da-da. I didn't think too much more about it, apart from it was mildly interesting. Until last year, the British Museum, they had a big expo on the Scythian Empire. I'll tell you about it in a moment. And we're going around this with my wife, and she said, "You've been there?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, and there, and you lived in one of those yurts?" "Yeah." And I realised that I'd ridden probably 2/3 of the Scythian Empire without knowing it. Anyway, so I looked into it a little bit more, and I found it to be fascinating. These, the Scythians were Indo-Europeans, like all of us originally, and they started their empire off in Siberia. I think it's a bit cold for them, really, so they moved west, and finally had an empire which was the 4th largest in the world, which is amazing. I'll show you a bit more on that in a moment. Anyway, they were great craftsmen as well. And this just here was made 3,000 years ago. Well, actually 2,500, I'm sorry. And they didn't have any writing, so the only way that we know anything at all about them is by the jewellery that they left behind. And their language was kind of a bit like Persian, but it's that too got lost. Right. The great thing they did, whoops, get back. Tech help, quick. Yeah, cool, okay. Okay, the first thing they did was they invented the composite bow. So they made it from horn and wood and leather, had a double curve, and which made it supremely powerful, and also very good for riding on horses. So shortly after that, they invented trousers, which was cool because it meant they could get on horses. It's a bit difficult in a kilt, you know, riding a horse all day long. And this is a belt buckle from Azerbaijan, which a lot of you know is nowhere near Siberia. It's a long way away. And then after that, they invented the saddle. So now you've got this kind of tribe of people in Siberia who've got the newest technology in composite bows. They've got trousers and they've got saddles so they could ride them well. And yeah, okay. So this is where it started. We all came out of Africa at one point, and then a whole bunch of us went down here to India. 70,000 years ago, they started the trek north. At this time, there's only about 10,000 Homo sapiens on Earth. Isn't that amazing? Just 10,000, billions today. Anyway, they trekked north, and they got up here to the Altai, which is the border with Mongolia. And it's there that they started their actual empire. The thing about empire is it's not millions of people. It's like the British Empire was and still is the biggest in the world. There was the elite. We know about elites, don't we? Yeah. There was the elite who ruled lots of small tribes underneath them. That's how empires work. So, this is the Scythian Empire. And this is 1,000 years BC. The Roman Empire didn't start till 500 BC. But as you can see, it is massive. And just here, there's the British Empire at the top, 35 million square kilometres, and Mongol Empire, Russian Empire, Scythian Empire, 15 million. And if you look down here to the Roman Empire, it was tiny in comparison. Who knew? I was amazed when I saw this. When I put in here America, which is just 3.8 million kilometres. Are there any Americans here? Okay, we can sneer now, because it's a very, very tiny empire, really. Why should you ride the empire? Well, basically, when they started excavating all these kurgans, they're called burial chambers, they found that the Scythians drank to excess, they smoked dope, they had tattoos all over the place, they invented saddles, and they rode long distance. Brothers. They're all brothers. And then the other thing is, oh yeah, this is a Scythian and a dudette. In Ukraine, the original Amazons were found. And they were women who were as tall as the men. They also had trousers. They also used bows. And basically, they fought alongside the men. And that's where the whole Amazon myth came from. So Amazon is true, but they were Scythians in Ukraine. So equality. So this is why women should do this as well. Now the challenge is that it's 21,000 kilometres around the empire. 15 million square metres, so lots of places to look. And you're going to go on this journey through mountains, through the forest, through the steppe, through rivers, the lakes, desert, and you need to learn 20 languages. But if you've got English, it's okay, because they all speak it. And at the end, of course, you might find some treasure. All good stuff. Right, what you'll need to go through the Scythian Empire. You will need some visas. You need a visa in Afghanistan, Iran, Mongolia, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. You can't get those at the borders. You have to get those in the UK. Carnets you'll need for India, Iran, and Pakistan. You'll have to get those before you leave. Navigation, you need a sat-nav if they work. Maps, compass, emergency numbers, and a spare phone battery. Help. That's the big one. And then the other thing you'll need is an overland T-shirt, just for the photographs. You need that bit. First of all, there's some safety rules for the Scythian Empire. In the UK, we have this sign which says "Give way." In Europe, you're supposed to be smarter. You don't need the words, but it means the same thing. They also have this, which means it's your priority. When you see it on a road, you can go straight on. You see this, it means you've got to stop because your priority is finished. We don't have anything like that. This is stop, which we can read. That's stop, stop. And then at each town or village you come to, this is Ukraine and Russia, you find a sign for the beginning of the city or the town, and then you find another sign saying you've gone through it. Anywhere in that area, do not break the speed limit. They've finished corruption in Ukraine. Well, finished. They've stopped it. It's still going on in Russia. But basically, the police in Russia, they hide at the beginning of the village or at the end of the village. And they will catch you, and they will demand 200 euros. The thing is that the biggest fine in Ukraine or Russia is 50 quid. So if you hand over 200 euros to be released on the spot, they've done you. What you have to do is you take off your helmet, gloves, smile, shake their hands. If they still insist, usually that's enough, they'll let you go. There's something called a protocol. So you demand the protocol, and the protocol is so that you'll turn up in court on a certain date. They know you're not going to go to court. You know you're not going to court, so they're hassling you for the 200 euros. Then they say, okay, we'll do an on-the-spot deal. 50, 10, 20, negotiate. But in Ukraine, it doesn't happen anymore. If it does, it's because you've actually broken the law. But in Russia, they'll still stop you all the time. Oh, and yeah, here at the bottom, attention is uwaga, that's Polish. And it gets a bit mixed up. But anyway you see that sign, slow down, because otherwise you'll get nicked. Right, roundabouts are fun. First of all, they're the opposite way round, but on the roundabout, there's a sign, yep, give way. And you've got to stop there because there's priority coming from the left. If you go up here, there's another stop sign, and the traffic on the roundabout has the priority. And same coming down there, he has to stop there to give traffic that way. Now, this is complicated enough, but they've just changed the rules. This is Ukraine, not Russia. And now the people on the roundabout always have priority all the way. But only half the country knows this. So it's just a little bit tricky when you're approaching roundabout. The thing is, slow down, make sure you've got a car on your left-hand side and sneak round that way. Avoids death. Okay, so this is the Scythian Empire. This is how you can get there. Basically, you start here, 6 weeks, turn right, and you're there. That's how it works. If you're a Moto Guzzi owner, you do a valve check and change the oil at that particular point. I do. Down here is Mongolia, and that's where really the empire kind of starts, just down there. And actually this route I went through the Altai Mountains. Fabulous, fabulous stuff. And I discovered last year at one of the shows, Charlie said that was the route they used when they went, when they did their long way round, is that one? Yeah, long way round. And I went to Mongolia on my own. And I got to the border, got through that. Oh yeah, okay, you get to the border, and there's these big iron gates, huge iron gates. You know there's a motorway the other side, because you've seen it on Google, right? So you open up the iron gates, and there is nothing. There is nothing. There's some gravel. That's a motorway. So anyway, I don't know why I'm telling this story. It's not part of the trip, but still. Mongolia, what happened there? Okay.
Turned round, but it went back.
I did. I was so scared after 250 kilometres, I thought, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I had no money, no petrol, and there were no people, so I thought, no, I'm going to go back. But I was glad because when I watched Long Way Round, I realised that across Mongolia at that point, there were absolutely no roads. It was just steppe, river, lakes. And on your own, that's not a great thing to attempt. I can tell you. Oh, the other thing is, oh, fuck. Are we filming this? Good. Right, let's just flip through here. Here we go, yeah. The other slight drawback is there's a lot of dust storms in summer across Kazakhstan, and that's where I broke my ankle, after I'd broken my ribs. And then down here, there's a war, and it's very cold around here, because that's where you're going around the Himalayas and stuff. There's another war there, and there's another war in Ukraine. So be careful as you go east. I'm still alive. Yes, but first, this is in Nuremberg. I just bought some, is the man here, Conti TKC 70s. Good tyres. I just had them renewed, had a new inner tube put on the back tyre, filled it up with this instant kind of heal yourself fibre things. And I got to, I rode from London to Nuremberg on my first day, and I'd gone outside the next day to carry on, and it was wobbling, and I couldn't understand this, and it turned out I got a puncture in the back tyre, right? So the green kind of fibre stuff that you fill your tyres up with had worked for 1,000 kilometres, but then it gave up. And what had happened was that the tyre shop who changed it had pinched the tube. So there's two thundering great holes in that the fiberglass couldn't take care of. So that was my first kind of slowdown, but it's a very elegant picture. What do you think? It's lovely. Right, the Scythian Empire. I'm signing this off in Poland because that's, excuse me, that's where it really begins. And this is called the Magic Mountain. It's just across the border from Germany, near a place called Wroclaw, I was thinking, but it's actually called Wroclaw. And at the top of the mountain, they found remains of human skulls, and when they checked it out, the human skulls had blood and wine in there. So this is where you get this whole thing about the warriors hacking off heads, drinking from the skulls. But there weren't actually, in truth, there were no Scythians there. The Scythians were just to the left of this bus stop. And also, left of the bus stop, about 10 million years ago, there was just up here, there was a volcano. So the volcano kind of shot up, and at the top of the volcano there was basalt, which is a rock. Yeah. Anyway, getting that moment. Here we are. This is the centre of the volcano, and up around here was where the Scythian village was. There are no road signs for this, by the way. You have to look for the bus stop. It's the only way you're ever going to find it. And what then happened is that about 400 years ago, people started looking at basalt to use as tombstones and stuff like that. So they hacked off the top of the volcano, and now it's just very pretty. But you go there and you think, Scythians. Oh, really? Is that... I also did some Korean cooking in Wrocław. I thought you'd be very interested in that. Not too much to do. Oh, yeah, the Koreans, incidentally. Sort of previous slide where we were talking about Homo sapiens going up from India through the north. Basically, we killed all the Neanderthals. Thank you very much. DNA, and I've been looking at some DNA and stuff like that. In Korea, they have a very high percentage of DNA from Neanderthals. So think about that next time you want to go to Korea. Right, we're now in... We're in where? Oh, yeah, this is on the border of Poland and Ukraine. Nice little stop, $15 a night. That was okay, I could afford that. I went out looking for this famous place of Scythians, and I found this wall. The other side of the wall was where the Scythian first outpost was. But I couldn't get past the wall to take any photographs, so I just did that really, which I thought was quite pretty. One of the issues around this is that all we know about the Scythians are from their burial chambers. And the burial chambers were found by Peter the Great's men, which is, you know, Russian, da-da-da-da. And he dug up most of the gold, and you can now see it in the Hermitage Museum if you go to St. Petersburg. But, you know, he looted the lot. So all you get these days is kind of... Oh, wait a minute, what's going on? Oh, yeah, all you get these days is kind of... Well, I'll show you some tombs and things in a minute. At the... this is the Ukrainian border. And I drove onto the Polish side. I passed about maybe 150 cars, as you do on a motorbike. Got right to the front. I was ready to go. Polish customs officer came out and said, no. He said, you've got to go around there. I said, no. And then he said, sotto voce, he said, behind me is a camera. Can you see it? And I said, yeah. He said, they can see everything that I'm showing you. So I have to show you to go away. And then he said, come back and get behind the 8th car in the queue, and the camera can't see you. Yes! So I whizzed away, a couple of kilometres, came back in, 8th car in the queue, no sweat. And then this young man appeared. And this is Vasil, who is Ukrainian but lives in Warsaw. Anyway, he kind of commutes. So he pulled up next to me and he said, I'll show you how to get across the border. And I said, no, 8th car, 3rd car. He said, 8th, 3rd, 8th. I followed him. We got to the 3rd car and the customs officer came out, saw me, saw him, and waved us through, just like that. So it saved about 4 hours queuing. So if you're going up to the Polish border, do not go to the front of the queue. 3rd car, then it's okay. Coming back the other way, you'll see a whole load of cars and trucks and things like that. You ride straight past them. The Ukrainian policeman gets out of his car, he points at you, and you think, oh, fuck. He points at you and he says, and you go straight to the front. Wonderful. They love motorcyclists there. They love them. Right, so we got through both customs. It's a double set in about hour and a quarter, I think, which is really, really swift. And then he said to me, I'm going to my friend's house because it's my birthday. And I said, well, that's very nice. And he said, she's cooking fish soup. And I said, oh, really? And it turned out that her flatmate, brother, had caught 8 huge fish and they couldn't get them in the freezer. So they had to be eaten that day. So off we went and I had lunch, and it was very nice. I met the lovely Olya. You'll be meeting her again. This, by the way, was my second problem with the bike, and the exhaust was falling off. Because the roads are so bad that the bolts holding the exhaust on repeatedly fell off. So I was repeatedly trying to tighten them up. Okay. I was going to, there's a place called Nemiriv, which is another of these huge kind of Scythian forts. And I couldn't find it on a map, I couldn't find it on GPS, nothing. So I thought, what I need is some clever young people who speak English. I went to an internet cafe, and believe it or not, there were clever young people who spoke English. Gave a chap my phone, told him what I was trying to do, and he went, ping, and he gave me the exact GPS, because he knew. So we got up the road, and here it is, the first actual Scythian fort that you can see. Can you see the, well, it goes around there? This is 35 kilometres of mud wall that they put up, made of mud and timber, and inside were the villages and the corn and the animals and all the rest of it. The funny thing is that when the Scythians started off, they were a hunter-gatherer band, so there's only 25 of them in any given band. And they could self-support with 25 people. And then they discovered sheep and things like that, so they could have more. And then they got a king, an elite instantly appeared, would you believe? And the other thing was that they then started moving the sheep. And then they discovered wheat, and then they started settling. Actually, what they did is they got almost as far as Greece, and they discovered better wine. So they settled down around there for a longer period. This is the next little problem that went wrong. I was, what was it? Oh, battery, this particular time. This woman just here owns a shop, and I pulled up outside the store and went in, and she realised I was English because I was pointing at things, as opposed to saying, you know, can I have this, can I have that? And within about 5 minutes, we're having an animated conversation about the Scyth, about the skiffs, as they call them. So, I mean, she's a lovely woman, chatting to me in English. So I thought, well, okay, that's a very nice conversation. And I thought, I'll cut away now. I'll cut a bit of a dash onto the bike. We'll just roar off down here, looking great. And the fucking thing would, sorry, camera, the thing wouldn't start. So I went back in the shop. My bike won't start. And do you know any mechanics? Oh, yes, she said. There was a mechanic about 50 metres away doing tyres. So her husband came out, damn it, her husband came out and he pushed the bike for me 50 metres, which is very nice of him. And the mechanic took one look and he said, Motor Guzzi, no. And there was another one across the road, about 200 metres. So now the husband's really pushing hard enough, steering gently. So we got to these guys, and they didn't have an ammeter. You know, they couldn't check whether there's any current running through the battery or anything else. So, and I'd got a hotel around the corner, so I decided to stay there the night. And is the next slide? Yes. I pushed the bike into this place as a secure, and there was this. And I said, what the hell is that? And they said it was a Honda rider, we couldn't repair it. So I thought, okay, thank God it's the Motor Guzzi. And this is the repaired Motor Guzzi. This is a state-of-the-art motorcycle repair shop in Kelminsky in Ukraine. With any luck, you won't have to go there. Next door to this, I then found a self-service garage. I don't know if we have them here, but basically all the tools are there, everything you need. You drive your car in or your bike, and you fix it, and you pay by the hour to use the tools. Terrific. So I rode in, and I said to this guy, I've got a bit of a problem with the brake disc, and I need to loosen whatever they're called, the pads. So he said, oh, how does that work? And I said, well, you do it like, before I knew it, he'd done the whole wheel. So, you know, for nothing, gratis. He even gave me coffee and cigarettes. Marvellous man. Right, we've moved down the track a bit to Scythian. Oh, Jesus, this was terrible. There was no booking.com in this particular city, so there was no competition. I'm used to paying $10, 10 euros a night for a reasonable hotel. This man stitched me up for 50, and there was no way that I could move anywhere else. And it was just, well, I'd leave it to guess what it was like. And he charged $30 for dinner as well. Bastard. And, okay, this is, I decided to move north to Kiev. And going along these village roads, these roads were laid by German prisoners of war in the, when was it, I suppose, 1945, 46, something like that. And I went across this village and I thought, Jesus, this is hard work, really, you know. And then the people in this village had spread the idea to the next two. So I had to go through about 20 kilometres of this. And I think that's where the road started to eat the motorcycle. There'll be more about motorcycle eating in a moment or two. The wave of revolution was the next kind of 4 villages up. And this was one of the original Stalin forced farms. And about half the people in this village starved to death because of it, but they kept the well, and they made this, you know, which is all very pretty, but I think in this particular village, about 800 people died from starvation because of Stalin's wave of revolution. Just before this happened, I pulled up to a dicky crossroads. There were 2 guys sitting in a red van, and they looked at me, and both of them simultaneously did this. And I thought, Jesus, you know, do I need that much help? And they knew what I didn't know because they were coming in a different direction. Another 50 kilometres, and I was in the middle of a hurricane. It wasn't great. There was the rain, there was the wind, there were trees crashing down, and God knows what, and there was just a mess. But fortunately, for a Gutsi, it survived. I was really very pleased about that. This is in Kiev itself, and this is where I first discovered the exhibition about the Scythians. And this place here is a monastery. And it's one of the few places in the world I know where you could actually go and see a dead saint. And they've got about a dozen saints entombed. And you can't touch them, you know, you can kind of knock on the box. But I did find it difficult, actually. You know, no, we won't get into that. But, and the other thing they've got here, this is the statue of the motherland. And you can get up to the top of this. I think it's about, I don't know, about 150 metres, something like that. Could that be real? Anyway, there were steps. So I didn't go to the top. And I couldn't find anyone to go up there and take photographs for me either, which is a bit of a... But when you start to get into the cities in Ukraine, the church is doing good business. I mean, this one's been around for 400 or 500 years, but everywhere you look, there are the most amazing golden domes. And now a very strong and resurgent Orthodox religion. This is, at the same time, there was a graduation day of the military from a college in Ukraine. This is a lovely shot. But the next day, they were off to the war. So you're looking at this now, some of these people will be dead. There's the war. Right, just there. Do you know about the war in Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. It's basically Mr. Putin put some soldiers over the border who weren't soldiers. They didn't belong to him. But they killed and maimed and they bombs and shot down that airline, you might remember, and stuff like that. And it's still going on. There's still about 20 people a day dying. And it's kind of, you know, the Western media just doesn't talk about it anymore. I'm sure Mr. Trump will sort it out for us very soon. Right, in Poltava, this is up near the Russian border. And there was a place I wanted to go, which was I think the second largest kurgan in Ukraine. And I met this woman, couch surfing, lovely woman. And I said, how do I get there? And she said, well, you walk down here and you turn left, and it's 75 kilometers. And she's walked there several times. You know, she puts a backpack on and a 35-kilo kayak she puts on her back and walks down her. She said, would you like to do any kayaking? And I said, well, no, not really. I'm a motorcyclist. I don't do that sort of thing. But lovely, lovely woman. She had 3 degrees. 3 degrees. A degree in philosophy, something in physics and something else. And couldn't find a job. This particular area, Poltava, is very secessionist. They actually want to leave Ukraine and join Russia. And because of that, the government's putting no money in there. Businesses won't invest, and there's just huge unemployment. Very clever woman, lovely. Right, we found one. Here we are. This is what a kurgan looks like. They have these huge banks. This bank went 45 kilometers around, and inside there was just kind of golden corn and trees, and it was just absolutely amazing. But me, of course, I put this up so you could see how it's really spelt. I can't pronounce it. Anyone else? Bilisk, I think it is. It's called the Moravian Way, and it was the biggest trading. It was like the early Silk Road. So this is about 2,700 BC, and they were running their own version of the Silk Road called the Moravian Way. I, of course, found the drinking club. As an ex-alcoholic, they're easy to find, I can tell you. And I pitched up to the very centre of Bilisk, thinking I would see Scythian armour and stuff like that, and found this bunch. And basically, the woman in the middle here, she detached herself from the crowd very quickly, like this, and said hello, as they do in Ukraine. And it turned out I was the first Englishman they'd ever met. Never mind the football, right? I was the first Englishman. Within 15 minutes, I had an indecent proposal, a proposal of marriage, and we solved the world. In 15 minutes, fantastic. And then, because I'd arrived on a two-wheel machine, the local motorcyclist was on a combination. And that wasn't a real motorcycle, you see, because it's a combination. So he rode off in high dudgeon. And then I saw him come back with some friends. So I thought, sod this, and left. Which I thought was the easiest thing to do. Going south, down to Dnipro, you can just see where it's starting to nibble the back of the license plate. It's the roads are so bad, it's bouncing so high, that it kept connecting with the tyre and taking a bit of a bite. And then, by the time I got to Zaporizhia, the whole thing had gone, right, completely eaten. So I went around, or I tried to find a new plate, and they can't make orange plates. Well, I didn't care, I'll have a silver one, but all of their plates have, they're made from metal, and they have the Ukrainian flag impressed upon it. So I located someone in Kiev who said he could make one and send it to me. And by the time I'd moved on. So, and I rode about at least a couple of thousand miles with no license plate in the back, and no one stopped me. No one ever. So when you hear about police in Ukraine, it's not true. They're good people, at least from my perspective. Okay, so we're going a bit further south now. And this is a city called Melitopol in Ukraine. And the giveaway, well, this is in the middle of quite a large city with skyscrapers and stuff like that. And there's this kind of village right in the middle. And the roads, again, were made by the German prisoners of war. And they built most of their houses here as well. And there are no signs to say this is a Scythian or a Scythian tomb. But in this backyard, a man was digging a well, and he kind of dug this hole, dug it a bit deeper, then suddenly the whole thing collapsed, and at the bottom of it he found a skull 15 metres down. So he said, ooh, he called the police. The police called the local museum. The museum turned up, and at the bottom of his hole was a Scythian prince, 15 metres down. And he was there with his horse as well, loads of gold and stuff like that. And his wife was at, the Scythian prince's wife was at 7 metres, and she had 3,400 pieces of gold all over her body. And the servant had nothing, not even a bit of silver. The elites, I tell you. Right. And to get there now, this is the widow, just here. And what you have to do is you have to find Skifka Street, which isn't easy, and you have to knock on the door, and you say, Pazalsta tomb, right? And from that she knows that you're not Ukrainian, and she will let you in. She'll show you this, which is all that's left of the tomb because they dug up the treasure and took it away. But she will give you a cup of tea. Very, very nice woman. This is what they found inside the tomb. And that's a gold arrow quiver. You put your arrows in there and you put your bow in there, stick it on your horse and off you go. And it weighed 2 kilos, solid gold. Amazing. It had been, these Peter the Great didn't find this lot. But obviously it's priceless. And you can see the metalwork on there, which is just fantastic details. I took this because I was walking back to the hotel, and this is such a nice picture of kind of Ukraine as it is now. This pipe here is the gas pipe, and the gas runs there to every house, and everywhere you go where there's a courtyard, there's one of these kind of yellow metal things. Extraordinary when you think of security and stuff like that. But they're all over Ukraine. Obviously, in the Soviet time when they were built, it was the easiest thing to do. So, being Soviet, that's what they did. Up the road from Melitopol is this place they call the Tomb of Stones. And there is some evidence of Scythians there, but also a lot of someone smart here. Who were the people before the Scythians? We're talking Stone Age and after the... No, let's get there. Before the Bronze Age, Iron Age, I guess. But this place had been used as a sort of a burial tomb for, I think, probably a couple of thousand years. No, it must be 4,000 years. And then they also have a museum on site. And I was talking about this woman in Melitopol, and this is the dress she was wearing, and the kind of the top and things like that. Looks very Middle Eastern, doesn't it? And I think they must have. I think they exported some of their fashion to the Middle East actually at that particular time. And back in Ukraine, and I met this chap who's a round the world biker, Ukrainian. He did his trip about 12 years ago, and he makes his living now training motorcyclists. And what he also does is when he trains his motorcyclists, he then offers them tours. You can go with him to the Himalayas. You can go with him to Ecuador, cheap as chips. So when you're looking at a tour, the man in Kiev, I'll give you his number if any of you are ever interested. Now we're on the way back. Oh yeah, so this is Olya, who we met before. Olya left home at 15 and went to university. She graduated with a couple of degrees, but still found it very difficult to find money to work and things like that. She's had 12 careers. I've had 19, but I've taken a lifetime. You know, she's only 30. But the lovely thing she did, and this is how she got her name, she made these... bugger. She made these buggers, which she then called sheep. And they're made of straw and they're sort of cotton and stuff around the sides. And she sold them in the local marketplace. That's how she lived. That's how she made money to work her way through university. And these can now be found, she tells me, worldwide because of the tourist trade that's there. But she's a lovely, lovely girl. Also, what she has in mind is to open... Have you been to the camp in Bulgaria? No, there's a kind of motorcycle stop-off place where you can repair your bike and stuff like that, stay overnight, da-da-da. She's going to open one... one of the things she said to me was, outside her house is this long straight road, and you can hear the motorcycles howling up and down, you know, in the morning and towards sunset. And she said to me, they twist my soul. I mean, what a way to describe a motorcycle, really. And anyway, so she loves motorcycles. So she's going to set up a camp just the other side of the border when you come into to Ukraine, with a place where you can go and fix your bike and stay and stuff like that. There's lakes and mountains, all sorts of stuff. Very ambitious woman, very, very smart. She also wanted to find a motorcycle, so we decided to go out and look for a bike. And I went outside and there were black clouds everywhere. And because I'm smart, I looked on my phone and it said clouds. That's all, just clouds. And then about an hour and a half later, the heavens opened. Woof, flooded. So we stayed with the guys at the Western Ukraine Motors for an hour or so. They got in I wouldn't go out in the rain, but they called a pizza guy who came back and delivered. So we had pizza there and had a jolly good chat. And while all this is going on, yeah, there we go. This is the centre of Lviv at that particular time. So they got 1.5 meters of water. And you know, AccuWeather said it was just going to be clouds. Don't trust AccuWeather. Back in Poland, because I'm on the way home now, and I found the end of another empire, which I really didn't know about. This is in Poland. It's the V2 factory, and Hitler's eastern headquarters, which he never actually got in because the Allies had kind of taken control of Germany at that time. But a fascinating place if you've got time to go visit. And we are now in Czech, And they're protesting the Soviets when they invaded in 1968. And of course, all the neighbouring countries, like the Polish and the Ukrainians, etc., had to send troops to quell the uprising in the Czech Republic. And you might remember there's a lot of people in Prague who were killed during this, but the people in Vaclavi were a bit clever, and they just said, "Okay, you can come and leave your tanks here." You know, no one was killed, and then the tanks eventually went. And the other really nice thing about this is that just outside the town there's this beautiful lake, and they have kind of impromptu musicians coming down and doing a jam session in the evening. And the favourite song for the crowd, because the crowd all started singing along with it, was The Road to Tipperary, which I thought was really very nice. And, so this is the parts of the empire that I've actually ridden. So what I'd like to do, if any of you are going up around Moscow and this kind of direction, particularly if you're going through the stands or down into India or Pakistan, what I'd like to do is give you some GPS points where what you're going to see is an empty field, mainly. You might find some gold, but I doubt it. Take some pictures, write some text, send it to me, and then we'll do a compendium in a couple of years, actually detailing motorcycle rides around the entire Scythian Empire. It's a lot more interesting in my presentation, by the way, particularly the roads. So that's the Scythian Empire. It can be the ride of your life. It's 21,000 kilometres. Do enjoy. And if anyone wants to do it, or any parts of it, do come and chat to me. And I'll give you all the advice and help that I can. And don't forget, I'm looking for photographs, and I'm looking for... yes, my granddaughter slipped in at the end there. So that's it. That's the Scythian Empire. And I'm very serious about people, if you are going to ride through the stands, or if you're going to India and going to Pakistan, would love to set you up some sites to go and look at and photograph. And it could be actually, the Scythian Empire it's fascinating, and all those countries are really great riding. So if you fancy doing any of it, do give me a shout. We'd love to talk to you. Okay, thank you. You can go home now.